Hey everybody, Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner here. That's not the way I normally say that.
And I'm Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner here. That's not the normal way I say that normally.
Yeah, because there is a definitely existent way that you normally say anything in the intro. You're watching episode 147 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. So, what are we doing today, Victoria?
We're going to be reviewing the May OIC episode of the month, which is Mean Streaks and Time for Action Part 1, the first part of A Date with Dad, Album 46's finale.
So, Mean Streaks. AIOC, May 2018, episode 842, written by, of course, Kathy Buchanan. What happens in this episode, Victoria?
I only need to use 2 words to summarize this episode, because nothing else matters at all. You know what those 2 words are, Devin?
Valerie Swanson!
Jeff Lewis! Jeff Lewis! No, you guys should have seen what happened when I was listening to the episode. Because I was messaging Devin and we were talking about some stuff. And I turned into Mr. Crocker from Fairly Odd Parents. Because I would just be normally typing something. And then Jeff would talk and then all caps I would type Jeff Lewis like 6 times. And then I just go back to talking normally like nothing else had happened.
It was funny because I kept nagging Victoria to listen to this episode. And she was like... I was like, Victoria, I really think you will want to listen to Mean Streaks.
Okay.
And no, here's what she's like. I listened to the first half of it, but I haven't finished it yet. And I was like,
no. The other day when you said you need to listen to Mean Streaks, and I said I've listened to the first half, and I still need to listen to the second half. But when you said specifically, Victoria, you need to listen to Mean Streaks, you're gonna like it, I was like, Jeff's gonna be in it. And then I went into my room and I was like, I started listening to it.
It could have been a Jay episode. It could have been a Jared Dwight episode. It could have been a Wellington episode.
No, I knew it wasn't going to be Jared and I knew it wasn't going to be Wellington. I knew it was going to be Jeff. Because Jared and Wellington are not going to appear.
Well, Jay. So, could have been Jay.
Or I didn't think it was going to be Jay either. I thought it was going to be Jeff, and I was right. And so I was thinking, okay, either Jeff is going to full on appear, Jeff and Connie are gonna get married, or they're gonna get engaged, or they're gonna go on a date, or they're gonna kiss, or
they're gonna they're gonna make eye contact.
Is going to be mentioned by Connie. And then they talked about how Jeff and Connie used to date, and how attractive Connie and Jeff were as a couple, and how attractive Jeff
to be fair, they talked about how attractive Jeff
they
was,
were to be together,
and how Connie had a large forehead.
Kathy lied to us. No, she didn't. She didn't lie to us. I was just listening to it and I was like, Kathy, you needed to warn me. My heart. I can't take this.
Kathy, why didn't you send me a heart sign so I would know?
I turned into that old lady where I was like, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. I'm having a heart attack. They say Jeff is actually talking. He never gets to talk. What is this?
I didn't think he was going to show up, TBH.
I was like, if he talks, I'm gonna die. And I'm actually a ghost right now. Surprise.
Too spooky.
Too spooky for you.
Man, we're halfway to Extra Life again already.
Oh my gosh, we are.
Past halfway.
You know what we're also almost halfway to?
Halloween.
Kingdom Hearts 3.
So, Victoria,
if you beat the game before I do, I will kill you.
More broadly speaking, what happens in this episode?
In this episode, an old friend, not an old friend, but like a girl who Connie used to go to high school with, comes back to Odyssey and she sends her a message over, not Facebook, and she's like, and it's not like Face Space either. It's not like that name that
No,
That's
it
not
was.
thinking
It was face
Okay.
base.
So and that was the one that Barrett had, right?
No, he had
No.
Club Penguin. It was Club
Oh,
Kid
right.
Chat.
Yeah, Barrett, it was like, I had 500 friends on Club Penguin, and I'm like, this is why you don't get to be in Odyssey anymore.
I didn't even realize it was supposed to be Club Penguin when it came out. I was like, there's a really weird, like, why did they go with this name for the social media site? And then someone's like, it's supposed to be Club Penguin. I was like, oh, what? What?
Honestly, I'm just impressed that more people remember that Club Penguin used to exist.
Hey, it only shut down like a year ago or two or whatever. I feel
Wait,
like I was
really?
I feel like I was the only person in my age demographic who didn't use Club Penguin.
I didn't use Club Penguin.
But I used Neopets hard.
I used to watch my friends play Club Penguin, and then I'd be like, that looks like fun.
Grade 3 to grade 5, it was just Neopets and RuneScape in like the grade. Not for me, I didn't play RuneScape. I played Neopets. But like
I
that
remember
was
there
all
was
I
like
played.
a 3-year period. I think when I was like in grade 8 or something like that, I hadn't logged on to my Neopets account in like 3 years, and I went on and they were all sick and dying, and I took them to the doctor, and the doctor was like, take care of your pets, and I felt so bad. And then I logged off again, and I never went back on my account ever again. There's one point, like, grade 12 or something like that, I was like, I wonder if I can get on here, but I couldn't remember my password. And then I finally found it and dug it up after, like, a really long time of searching,
Victoria,
and was like,
I
sorry,
could tell
this
you
account doesn't exist anymore.
What do you mean you have to
They killed my Neopets.
Victoria, I still remember what your password was. Because it was the one you used for everything, and it was exceedingly simple.
I remember what my password is. But, like, I logged on, and it was like, this account isn't active. And I was like, you killed my Neopets!
There's nothing on the internet more fascinating to me than reading the occasional random stories of the weird economics that continue to go down to this day in the Neopets community.
Yeah.
Of the vast, severe inflation because of like the hackers who've glitched out the economy, and now
the Scientologists killed my Neopets.
I forgot about the Scientology
that's a true
part.
Sentence.
I forgot about the Scientology part. And now a loaf of bread in Neopets world costs 5 billion coins because of the vast inflation. It's so funny and bizarre and sad and interesting.
I found out. I watched, like, this guy do, like, this mini documentary on Neopets and stuff. I found out that the people who own Neopets kept on trying to get, like, the young adults who ran Neopets and created it to implement all these religious aspects.
Oh, yeah, I heard about it.
It's like very, very religious for Scientology, and they're like, how about we don't do that?
I know. They turned the entire company into like a Scientology pyramid scheme, and it's just so interesting and
it's so funny,
weird and hilarious.
The Scientologists killed my Neopets.
It's not even a joke. It's true. It's literally true. So
Devin, I should have made that my grad quote.
So what happens in this episode again, Victoria?
Nothing else matters. Let's end the episode. Podcast ended.
Leonard Meltzner, who?
Oh, man.
So Tiffany reaches out to Connie.
Tiffany with 2 eyes. I didn't think that joke was really funny.
Really? Because I have a note here specifically saying I thought that was a solid joke.
Me?
What?
I never said that.
No, I have a note here specifically saying that was a solid joke.
I did not think that was funny.
How many one-eyed Tiffany's do you know? I thought that was hilarious.
I did not think that was funny. I was like groaning at that. But like the only time I've ever found
such a dad joke.
The only time a joke about Tiffany with 2 eyes has ever made me laugh was in Camp.
But have they made like an eyeball joke with that?
Yeah, because she loses one of her eyes.
Oh, yeah. In the Girl Scout meth episode,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, and then they're like, now she's Tiffany with 1 eye because she's blinded in 1 eye.
Oh, that was a good episode.
Oh, and she still has her eye patch ever since. It's so funny. That was probably like the most subtle joke. Or Tammy with 2 eyes.
No, wasn't it like Tabitha?
No, her name's Tammy.
Okay. Anyways,
Tammy with 2 eyes.
so
She
Tiffany,
says she
we're
has
still
an
on the
eye.
first sentence of the episode description.
Okay, Tiffany, whose name is spelled with 2 eyes, used to pick on Connie and be very mean to her when they were in high school, but now she's coming back to Odyssey and she's like, hey, let's hang out. And then Connie tells Penny and Jules that she used to be a jerk to her, and Jules and Penny are like, hey, we should pretend that Connie's like really successful and stuff.
Because that always works out on TV.
Yeah, and then just like do that and mess with Tiffany and get revenge that way. And then I love that Penny is like Tiffany comes in and she meets Jules and Jules is like, "Oh, I'm the assistant." And then Tiffany's like, "Connie has an assistant?" And Jules like, "And you're Connie's assistant?" And she's like, "Oh, I wish. I'm the assistant's assistant. Penny's the assistant. Did you make an appointment?" And that made me laugh. But I love Jules standing up for Connie. It's so good.
It was nice, yeah.
And Jules has come so far. Jules and Buck. It is beautiful, and I love it. Who wrote this again?
Kathy.
Devin, who wrote this episode?
Kathy.
Kathy? Kathy! Why didn't you tell us to Jeff? You know what she did? She went home after the interview and she was like, typed out this script. And she was like, now we get to the Jeff stuff.
So,
Because we're like, are Connie and Jeff going to be a thing? And she was like, nah. And then immediately after, she was just like, starting now. It can be a thing. It's like that gif where it's the horse and it takes off its hooves and it goes like this. Can you put that gif here?
if I can find it. Do you know what a pain?
I saw it the other day.
Do you know how much of a pain it is to put GIFs in iMovie? I have to screen record the GIF and turn it into a movie file.
But, like, that GIF is so funny, though.
Anyways, what happens in this episode, Victoria?
I'm already talking about it. And then, and there's also this subplot where Valerie's being a jerk to Jules, and then Jules is like, I'm gonna get revenge on Valerie, but then she ends up, like, interfering so nothing bad happens to Valerie and it happens to Jules instead, and Jules gets sprayed by like this green paint stuff.
Green
Valerie.
gook, please.
Yeah, green gook. And then Penny Penny and Jules are still doing all this stuff for Connie and hyping her up. And then Connie is like, Tiffany, I have to tell you, none of this is true. I still do this, blah, blah, blah. Also, Connie is assistant manager at Wits End. I don't know if they've actually called her that before.
Yeah, that was new.
But, like, I got so excited when they called her that. I was like, I'm so proud. I was, like, blessed.
When they were talking Connie up, and they were like, books and radios and the CEO of a bit, did you realize that, like, every one of those things that they said was technically true?
I know. I was listening to that, and I was just like, yeah, she is very talented. But, and like, I was thinking, when you list things like this, and all of them were true, by the way.
It's a good tip for you guys, resume building.
Yeah. But
no,
also,
like,
I was thinking, like, it was the
realize.
first time I didn't really want to drag Connie for, like, the fact that she's had so many career changes over time, because she had, like, such a good resume in that list, and I was like, this is actually, like, really, really impressive. And she's done more, like, broad things than Eugene has. Not Wit, because Wit does literally everything. Wit. But that shouldn't count.
No, but when they said that part, like, I was like, oh yeah, obviously the wedding planning part is true and stuff. At the beginning, they're like, she's a CEO of her own wedding company. I was like, well, when you put it that way, yeah, she is. Yeah, and she's the assistant manager at Wits End. She has several radio shows that she does. She's written a book, and I was just like, dang, girl. No, but they led with, like, the book and the radio shows and then the wedding, and I was like, oh yeah, the wedding's true, but they're, like, making up some of the other stuff. And then Penny's like, all that stuff is technically true, and I was like, oh yeah, that is all technically true. Like, she did write a book. Yeah, you're right, and all this stuff. And
I was just like, I'm so proud.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of her. She's so talented.
Sorry.
Anyway, so then Jules and Penny overhear Tiffany on the phone talking to someone. Oh yeah, sorry. Going back. Tiffany and Connie. Connie tells Tiffany that, like, all this stuff was fake, even though Not all of it was fake. She probably made more of it sound like it was fake than
Yeah.
actually was. But
I actually
and
did
then
literally do all of those things that they said, but
yeah. But like go off, I guess.
yeah.
And then Tiffany's like, "Man, I was always so jealous of you in school because you had all these friends." And I'm like, "What friends? She had like one friend, and then her friend mysteriously disappeared for 20 years. We've never seen her since then. Now she has one more friend who is female, and that is it."
I know. She's like, you used
All
to
of her
have
friends are old men in Eugene.
She's like, you used to have so many. She's like, you know what, Connie, I can say
You're
this about
so
you in high school.
popular. And I was like, no, she wasn't.
You had so many friends. And I was like, who? She had like one friend sometimes. And
sometimes when the show remembered that Marcy existed.
Exactly. I was like, there was an entire episode dedicated to the fact that Connie had no friends except for old men and infants.
12 and 15-year-old infants.
Yeah. There weren't Connie
anyway.
was 15 at that point. They were 8-year-old
true.
kids and 70-year-old men and no in between except for Marcy.
The only people who had crushes on her other than Jeff were all computer programs.
And 8-year-olds, yeah. It was a sad time in Connie's life.
For all we know, Whit programmed that way to give Connie more self-confidence because she didn't have any friends.
That is literally the most depressing headcanon we've ever come up with.
Oh,
It's like, hey, Connie, I heard about these things the kids are talking about called dating sims. I made you Judah.
Judah. No, Connie, Judah's a real life dating sim. Think about it, though. Think about it. And now he's just like the Dave Sprite of dating sims. Like, Connie goes back to the time Jesus was born. He's like, hey, remember me? I'm still here. He's like Monica. He's like, Connie, I'll always love you. Do you remember me? I haven't left.
Oh man, what if he had digitally infected the imagination station Blackguard style like Monica?
Oh my gosh.
Let's... Yeah.
That would be so much better than Blackguard's Revenge.
If it was a crossover with Doki Doki Literature Club, yeah.
Could you... Devin, it turns out that it wasn't actually Blackguard, it was...
Monica all
It
along.
was Judah, and that's why he like, first appeared when Connie was present.
So, anyways, back to the episode.
So then Tiffany is like, man, I used to date that really hot guy, Jeff. Do you remember him? He was so hot. And Connie's like, oh yeah, we're still friends. And I was like, say more than friends. Do it, you coward. And then Tiffany was like, yeah, I love to see Jeff again. That really hot guy, Jeff. And I totally am not using
And Connie's like, well, that's
Jeff.
great because we're totally platonic and he's single. I'm explicitly telling you now.
Yeah, and I was just like, girl... No, I was thinking, unless Connie is secretly planning on getting revenge on Tiffany and saying, like, Jeff, meet me here for a date in an hour, and then she tells Tiffany to come in 2 hours, and Tiffany walks in while Jeff and Connie are having, like, a candlelit dinner. I was like, I don't know. I don't want this. And then Penny and Jules hear later on Tiffany on the phone with someone, and she was like, yeah, that chump Connie, she's still so ugly, and she still just has middle-aged guy friends.
That's what we called her when she was young, the chump of the cump.
Yeah, that's it.
We had very weird accents back then. We're like Alicia.
And... It's like the dumbest thing you've ever said before. That really says something.
And there was a legitimate moment in my mind where I was like, oh yeah, that works, before I said it to myself. And I was like, nope, that's not the right vowel. I was like, I'll say it anyways. I was like, that doesn't sound right. Take a second to double check that I haven't turned anything into a swear word. No, okay, I'm going to say this out loud.
Anyways.
I love spending time with you, Victoria. I'm so glad
Spending time with you sure is something also.
I'm so glad the rest of the world gets to witness these moments that we share together.
Oh my god. Anyways, so then Jules and Penny hear everything, and they don't tell Connie. Do they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, okay, yeah, they tell Connie. And Connie's like, oh, that's too bad. But I'm not gonna tell Jeff to, like, not do anything. And I'm like, let your friend know that it's a trap.
That she's gunning for you? Yeah, that's probably wise.
Yeah, like, that she's probably gonna try and manipulate you or something like that. Because Jeff is a good boy and he does not deserve this. And, also, between these scenes, like, Jules got hit with that green gook.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has, like, this box that's full of more, because, like, Penny wants it for Wooten, because Wooten is weird. You could summarize so many things about Wooten's character just by saying, because Wooten is weird, honestly.
That's most of it, yeah.
So then that Tiffany comes in, and she sees Jules has a box, and she was like, oh, are those the cupcakes that my boy Jeff was gonna pick up? And I was like, he's not your boy. He's my boy and Connie's boy and Devin's boy, and that's it. And anyone else who's watching who wants him to be their boy. And then she opens the box and she gets, like, spring trapped by the green goo. And then she freaks out and she was like, I have a thing tomorrow. Just like that line from the, what's it called? What's that great Stephen King movie with those giant chompy...
Yeah, the Chumbawambas, what are they called?
It's not the Tommy Knockers, it's...
The Wibblewoos.
What's it called?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Those things.
I know what you're talking about.
The
Tommy Hilfigers.
It's not the Tommy Knockers, that's a different one.
Yes. Anyways, go on.
Right.
It's the one where they're in the plane.
So then
you're scaring the little girl.
No, I was gonna say, I have a meeting at 10 o'clock and it's very important I'm there on time, or whatever that line is. And then she, like, and then Jeff comes in and she's like, don't look at me, I'm hideous. And then she runs out and Jeff was like, what just happened? And everyone starts talking to Jeff and I'm like, kiss Connie, do it, you coward. And then the episode ended.
I like how the lesson with Tiffany's bit was...
Oh yeah, then they all had a cupcake date at the end, and I was like, this is so beautiful.
I like how the lesson with Tiffany's bit was like, hey, if someone's mean to you, don't cover them in green gook. Leave it in God's hands, and he'll cover in green gook.
You know what it's kind of like?
Immediately.
It's... If it was, like, one of the other characters who did it, and not, like, just that it happened to happen, and, like, it was Tiffany's fault. If, like, someone else purposely did that, and that was portrayed as the lesson, it would be Drake in the Time That Time Forgot, with, like, with Emily being like, don't shoot Space Hitler, and then Drake's shooting Space Hitler.
And then no,
Drake's saying, don't do it, and she doesn't, and then he does it.
We'll never address this.
Yeah.
So, you pointed this out, and I had it pointed out as well.
This episode was really good. I really loved it. I didn't really care for the part with Valerie, but it did show that, like, how much Jules has grown.
It wasn't...
like, she took the hit.
It wasn't as
like that.
Peak Valerie as I was hoping for. However, the web quest did say she's also going to be in the next episode.
She is.
So...
I listened to the first couple minutes.
Here's hoping.
I've heard the first 2 minutes, and she's already in it.
Nice.
Spoilers.
So, as you pointed out, I like how AIOO refuses to settle on a single homogenous social media platform. Because...
Space. I was like, that's the worst name.
This one was...
You combined MySpace and Facebook.
I thought it was FaceSpace because it was Facebook and MySpace. But then on the web quest, it said FaceBase. And I was like... I feel like they may be wrong, because it has to be a MySpace thing.
Maybe they maybe they were like, Maybe they didn't realize that MySpace actually happened and they just think it's an urban legend or something like that.
So last time they mentioned one, I don't think it was FaceBase. And before that, it was like Twitface or something like that.
That's an insult.
I know. I love that one. In like 20 album 57. And then before that, there's like Club Kid Chat and stuff. So I'm like, just choose one, guys.
They refuse.
I know that you don't want to like bell-bottom things, and we just talked about this, but...
Talked about what?
Talked about bell-bottoming and like the show trying to avoid it by doing things like avoiding mentioning specific social media platforms and stuff like that. That's going to like be super outdated in the future.
Oh. Yeah, that's fine.
That's why they like make names up. But at least settle on one, you know? Stop changing it every time. So we find out that Connie was made fun of quite a bit in high school. They used to call her Fivehead. And I was like, I wonder if this is a dig at Gary's art style. It genuinely
I hope so.
Could be. Also, I was honestly cracking up over Penny's senior quote thing about like elongating the neck and then saying like, my favorite leaves are from the top branches in the senior quote. I was like, that is mean, but that is also funny.
I liked that that was actually Penny that did that to someone, because I didn't see that coming. And I was like, yeah, they're saying that like no one can ever be nice. Like when you're mean, you're always mean. And then Penny was like, I used to be a jerk. And I was like, show me young Penny. Show me her. I need to see young Penny.
She's Lindsay Jones. That's who she is.
Oh my gosh, she is.
So
that means Wooten is Michael, and that makes a lot of sense, honestly.
It does. Yeah, no, it was like, if you had just done the neck thing in the picture, that would have been like, okay, it's kind of mean, it's not really that funny. But doing the neck thing and then making the quote like, my favorite leaves are from the top branch, I was like, that is actually quite funny. The comparison that they made between Tiffany and Connie was actually extremely depressing before they like talk Connie up and stuff. And they're like, she's all this successful stuff and like this and that and that. I was like, and she like went to Harvard and all these things. And she's like a VP, a senior VP of this tech company and all these things. And I was like, it does though. The comparison may be kind of depressing for Connie. It does make it more impressive that Connie managed to snag the valedictory away from her. Although, honestly, I was like, honestly, Connie is still coming out on top if Tiffany's dating a guy named Chip Marvel. Because just hearing that name, I was like...
Excuse me, that is my favorite superhero character, I'll have you know.
I was like, just hearing that name, it's going to take me a week to wash the frat house out of my ears. Ugh. So, Jules and Penny start concocting together to make a plan. I was like, these two are actually a really bad scheming combination. Like, not like they scheme poorly, but like they're very bad for each other because they're both very schemy individuals and they both feed into each other like in a very dangerous way when it comes to this sort of thing.
It's funny because we didn't think Penny was evil, but she's one of the best schemers. She's not evil, but she is a schemer.
That's true.
She
does do it very regularly. Sorry?
Do you think Penny would be Slytherin?
That's a good question.
Honestly, how good would that be with, like, Green Ring? And they're like, no, you're Slytherin, you're a bad guy. And she's like, no, I'm genuinely not a bad guy. I'm just a Slytherin.
Stop housecasting me. Like,
stop housecasting me, even though
you're as bad
as
J.K. Rowling in the original novels.
That's, honestly, that's one of the good things about Cursed Child, because, like, Scorpio is a cinnamon roll, and he's also Slytherin. I'm like, thank you for finally showing that not all the Slytherins are terrible.
So, I guess
and, like,
none of the Slytherins
are not.
None of the Slytherins fought in the Battle of Hogwarts because they're the evil house.
Yeah, it's not like they weren't allowed or anything like that, even though lots of them probably would have willingly fought, and Draco really wanted to fight. Actually, he didn't really want to fight. He left. Because he didn't want to fight.
So they're like, Connie, oh yeah, Tiffany, she's a famous author and a playwright. And I was like, okay, granted, that did turn out to technically be true, but still, I was like, you're trying to make her believe, you know, in the way that you're trying to make her believe it. Yeah, famous author and playwright. That's a lie that will be easy to maintain in the age of the internet for more than 30 seconds. until she
Okay,
Googles
she's not a
Connie's
famous
name.
author. I forgot she wrote plays, though. I was like, I guess she would have, but I can't think of what plays she's
She wrote
written.
Scattered Seeds.
Oh, yeah, she did. You're right.
Well, actually, wait, no, she didn't write the play. She wrote
Do
a
you think
story
Kathy
based
was
on
like
Wit's
going
play.
through the archives and she's like, what things has Connie done? What did Nathan, what achievements does Connie have?
She did, actually, you know what? I was going to say she did all that play stuff in The No Factor, but that was actually, she was copying Wit's play from The Boy Who Didn't Go to Church. But I'm pretty sure she has talked about writing other plays at different points.
Do you think that sometimes the writers just like, instead of digging into the Odyssey Bible or something like that, just go on the Wikipedia page and just look
I
at
imagine so, yeah.
things?
I imagine that first they check the wiki, and if it's not on there, then they just ask Nathan, and then if not, then they try and find it or ask someone else.
Do you think Nathan gets like... You remember that old ceiling fan sketch when Kevin went to Nathan's house in the middle of the night and woke
Yes.
him up to ask him questions?
Yes.
Do you think that's what it's like with the other writers?
I
when they
imagine
have
so,
questions?
yes.
They call him, they're like, Nathan, what's the name of Wooten's first episode? It's called Welcoming Wooten. It's not that hard.
Please check my FAQ before sending asks. So we
I
find
do
out.
not take any shipping questions. I do not want to participate in the shipping wars.
No one. I've disabled anons.
I don't take commissions.
So, I'll be honest. I genuinely did expect that Connie was going to be in on this scheme, because it would be kind of hard
It
to
kind
maintain
of felt
it.
like she was. Like, she picked up on it immediately and she didn't say anything.
I mean, no, they definitely did not tell her, but
Yeah, I know, but when they were like, come this way, Miss Kendall, she was like, and they're like, your appointment is here, and she didn't say, like, she knew what they were doing.
But no, for some whatever dumb reason, I expected them to tell Connie, because this would be impossible to pull off if Connie didn't know beforehand, but they didn't. And I was like, of course they didn't tell Connie about this. And I was like, wait a minute, where are they?
Connie would have stopped them.
I was like, are they at Wit's End? How did they make the counter of Wit's End seem like a receptionist desk for Jules? To seem like how did that work? Because they'd have to be at Wit's End for Connie to not have known what was going on.
Honestly, I feel like people don't ask enough questions at Wit's End, and that gets them into trouble a lot.
That's true. It does happen a lot.
I mean, like, Richard took over for a couple minutes behind the counter back in album 5. It was his first time ever stepping into Wit's End. The only person that asked any questions was Connie.
Mm-hmm.
So,
hey, that Connie's quick.
Connie is quick.
So, Penny's all buttering Connie up with all this stuff, and she's talking her up and stuff. Penny's like, you're actually very impressive on paper. And I was like, wow, Penny, you really know how to butter up a gal.
Thanks, best friend.
If we take
you
everything in your life heavily out of context, it actually sounds very impressive in theory.
You actually sound like a human being that's achieved a lot instead of the scum that you really are in reality.
So, on the Valerie side of things, the Fall Festival is happening. I was like, wow, that is a heavy throwback to the way back. We have not heard about the Fall Festival since, album 7. Wait.
Like when Rodney went missing?
Sorry?
When Rodney went missing?
No, it was in Karen, and then it was in the very best of friends because of anniversary of Karen's death. And then Jimmy and Oscar did the Shakespeare and all that stuff.
What was the thing for when Rodney went missing?
What about
it?
That was the carnival. That was the summer carnival, which turned out to be Uncle Archie's carnival later on.
Yes, it did, actually. You're right.
So
they're just bringing back all these old events.
Yeah, the Fall Festival's back. Miss Adelaide is here for the second time since The Ties That Bind.
Yep, she's still alive. Did they change her voice, though?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay.
Valerie's Tiffany's like, I took a break from Chip. I can't stand all of his jokes. I don't understand. I was like, despite his name, I would stomach Chip being in this episode if only it meant that we got more neurology jokes. I mean, hopefully they were better than the hippocampus one, because that was like, but
No, that was probably like his top tier joke. Can you imagine
I would
what
hope.
he would sound like though, Devin? Like his voice?
I don't know, because it's like a cross between a super nerd and a frat guy, and I don't know what is in the middle of that.
Patrick
go either way.
Star.
Yeah, that's it. You figured it out.
I cracked the code.
Yeah, so you already mentioned.
You paused for so long after I said that. I thought your video stopped.
We already riffed.
Instead, I actually just sent you into a state of deep contemplation in reality.
Exactly. Well, I was trying to think, is there a different Patrick Star you could be talking about?
There's only the one.
The one and only. We already riffed on the line about, like, you always had such good friends in high school.
I mean, we could riff on it more if you want.
And then she brings up Jeff. So I really want to know the intentionality here, like from a writing perspective, from Kathy's perspective. Because
I don't know. Just reminding people that Jeff exists?
Because I
feel like it has to be more than that.
Yeah, the conversation they were having didn't I mean, I guess it made more sense later once
Jeff
it's like,
was being built up. They're like, man, he's really hot. And he was such a catch. And you two were a couple. And he really, really liked you. And I was like, this sounds like something I would write.
I know. It makes more sense once you realize, Tiffany had to bring it up because this whole thing was to get after Jeff. But at first I was like, they were talking about friendship and stuff and all this stuff in high school. Like, the conversation they were having didn't necessitate the flow into romance because they were already away from the chip part of the conversation. There's clearly motive behind it, which it turned out there was. But I was like, it ends with Connie saying, thanks, but we're not really couple material. I was like, is this just Kathy, like, adding the fandom, saying now, like, to don't delve into too much hope for the ship?
Too late.
Or
Too late.
It could be early stages of development on that front, showing us Connie's current thoughts on the matter so we can juxtapose differences later. So I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know. Part of me, like, if it was in the actual albums and not in the OAC, I'd be like, this is building up to an arc. But it's in the OAC, so I don't know what to think.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like, on the other hands going on here, so I'm...
Oh, Dev, you should take a screen cap of that one thing I sent you and put it in here about my feelings towards Connie and romance.
And then Hal's Diner was there, too. I was like, it's been a few episodes since it's been mentioned. I was starting to worry. Just a few albums ago, it was a bigger character than Eugene was. And it finally came back.
It's been way too long since Hal's Diner was mentioned. I know because there's been more episodes where Wit's End is in it than Hal's Diner, and that's
What's
not
up with that?
That is an uneven ratio. And, I mean, it was always an uneven ratio, but, like, we need the ratio to go back into balance. Yeah. You know, Devin, you know that one line from Avatar where it's like the Avatar makes everything balanced and brings balance. And that means that Hal's Diner needs to be in more episodes post-hiatus than Wit's End.
Yep.
The direct quote that Katara says before she talks about how the Fire Nation attacks.
Mm-hmm. Long ago, all the restaurant chains lived in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Jules throws herself on the Gook grenade and gets covered in green slime. And then she gets in a bunch of trouble for it. And like you said, she has the second box. She brings that. Tiffany's going after Jeff. What a twist. And Penny was the mean girl. What a twist. I like how Penny's like, people can grow. They can change. I was like, yeah, they can move across the country, join a cult, get swept up in an international counterfeiting scheme, and be rescued off a runaway train from inside a crate. And then they'll change.
Well, when you put it like that...
Just these, if you want to turn your life around, are you a bully? Just follow these 6 easy steps.
Easy? Yep.
Have your fiance leave you.
We know how the Tiffany redemption arc's gonna go now, Devin. Spoilers.
We have it all road mapped out.
We're on to you, Kathy.
So then we have the video documentary. In the video, there's basically only two parts to it. Diane and Golia make some green gook. I expect it's borax based, but includes glue, so it's less like oobleck and more like stim slime, but not as stiff.
Yeah, that sounds like slime.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be like oobleck, but yeah, it was just more like a solid gushy ball, so it was more slime, yeah, than. And then a bunch of people talked about bullying and how it's bad, and that was about it.
Did anyone talk about Jeff?
No.
Then what was the point?
Well, here's the point, Victoria. A very apt point that totally had to do with the episode. In the web quest, there was like a word fit together thing where they have like a bunch of like bubbles and words, and they just give you the words and you have to like fit them so they all fit together.
You mean a crossword?
Well, no, because they tell you the words. They don't give you clues. But you just have to figure out how they fit together.
You mean a clueless crossword?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds hard.
But instead of just giving the list of words as you normally would for one of those, they're like, we put all the words into this Odyssey Times article, and the words are highlighted just to give it more flavor text. It was very strange. It was an Odyssey Times article written by Dale Jacobs about, it's about the school and the town going into a tizzy of a debate over banning gook after the events of this episode. And it's very, very obviously and very, very uncomfortably framed as being about gun control, all the way down to the quote, "Gook doesn't slime people, people slime people." And I was like, yikes. Like, super yikes. And it was relatively unbalanced towards like pro-guns because, you know, Focus, US, Republican, all that stuff. They were like, Miss Adelaide has created this like anti-gook group, and they're like, but well, law-abiding owner of Walter's Jokes and Prank Shop is saying, but what about the people like Wooten Bassett who are law-abiding and safely use gook? They don't need to be punished. If you take away our toys, what's next? And I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Please kill me. So that was in the web quest, and that was fun.
Okay, then.
That was something that would only fly in precisely one country in the world. So yeah, that was that. So, overall thoughts on the episode, Victoria?
Okay, I thought this episode was amazing. I need to know why Jeff was portrayed the way he was. I'm hoping he's
being
going to
super,
come back
super hot,
soon.
super available single hottie man.
Yeah, and I'm like, you don't need to tell me these things. I'm already well aware.
We all been new.
We all love Jeff Lewis. We all want to be with that guy. He's super awesome. But yeah, I really liked this episode. I honestly don't have any complaints about it. The Valerie subplot was a little bit strange in that it was only, there were only like 3 scenes basically for it.
Yeah.
There was like the first little, well, maybe like 2.5 scenes, first little bit where Jules was like, oh man, I don't like someone at school. And then the one where Valerie is a jerk to her. And then she also mentions like that green book to Penny. And then she stops it. And then that's it.
It wasn't the best
but I did
B-plot.
I did like that it showed how far Jules has come.
Exactly.
Because like a couple episodes ago with Valerie, she was like trying to get Valerie scammed and stuff with Buck.
It even said in the discussion questions, it was like, even though Jules,
I was proud of her.
It was like, even though Jules isn't a Christian, she still exhibited like these wonderful, like forgiving and merciful characteristics here.
I was so proud of her. I was like, that's my daughter. Yes. Connie is very skilled. Penny, I need to see more young Penny. I need to see young Wooten, and I need to see young Penny. It's kind of weird if you think about the fact that young Penny would probably beat up young Wooten, and young Wellington would help Penny beat up young Wooten. You know what I need?
You do make a
because Katie Lee and Will Ryan did
point.
Muppet Babies. I need Odyssey Babies, And it's like...
Do you think Penny and
like,
Wooten also met each other as children?
I'd be surprised
Like Connie
if
and
they
Eugene?
hadn't. But, like, Wellington was there, too.
Yeah,
But,
it was like Penny went on vacation to Alaska or something and bullied Wooten somehow.
yeah, but, like... And then Wellington teamed up with her. Either that...
No,
There's
Wellington
only two
defended
outcomes.
Wooten.
Either Wellington stood up for Wooten, or he bullied Wooten along with her. Those are the only two outcomes I'll accept.
Probably the former. He's like, no one bullies my brother except for me.
And then he kicks Penny in the shin.
It would explain why he was so
glorious.
distrusting of Penny when they got engaged.
Yeah.
So, final thoughts on the episode, Victoria?
I thought it was great. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. I thought it was really good.
That's a good mark for like a weak B-plot episode.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it...
I'm really proud of Jules, though. I like how far she's come.
I'm going to give it a 4.3 because I thought Connie's thing was really good. They brought back a bunch of references to old things. And I was saying on my comment on the AIOC that I feel like we're learning, like in terms of the specifics of what went on, like in Connie's high school experience, like with the kids around her and stuff. I feel like we learn more about that now from episodes involving Jeff than we did when Connie was in high school for a solid decade of the show.
No, it's interesting because it didn't feel like Connie and Jeff were together that long, like maybe a month or something like that.
Yeah.
But then you listen to newer episodes and you find out they were together for actually like quite a few months.
I didn't really think
about it. And it's really interesting. You're like,
I didn't really think about it because it takes place over the course of like...
several months.
Well, I mean, like it happens in an episode, the whole thing.
Yeah. But remember how you used to have that thing and you were like, Timmy's cabin takes place longer than any other episode?
Yeah.
When in reality it was actually first love and we just didn't know it.
It might not still be like, I think it's at least a month, but I don't think it's more than several weeks.
Because Connie and Jeff, in that one episode, they talk about like, oh yeah, we used to always do this in our chem class, and this would always happen.
Yeah.
And it was so constant.
It is strange.
And I'm like, you two didn't know each other before this episode, and you probably wouldn't have hung out after you broke up.
It is strange how
awkward.
What seemed like such a brief fling initially, now in retrospect, was apparently like they were like an established item to the rest of their graduating class.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's important to me.
I'm going to give it a 4.3, I think, because there's definitely a detraction on the much smaller, weaker B plot that went on. But it's nice to see Jules developing. And yeah, like I said, all the stuff with Connie was great. Getting to hear all this past stuff, getting to see people come back. Jeff Lewis, Penny and Jules scheming together.
Lewis.
Love it.
Jeff Lewis, our original running joke.
Mm-hmm. No, that was the tablecloth, actually.
What was...
always frantically straightening out our tablecloth.
No, I thought you meant Jeff is the tablecloth of our joke table.
No.
I thought you were being like all metaphorical.
I wasn't nearly getting that like meta about it.
I'm an art student. What do you expect from me?
So, now let's talk about time for action.
Yeah.
And we're back now after a brief intermission with episode 594, A Time for Action, Part 1, written by Nathan Hubler. What happens in Part 1, Victoria?
So in this episode, there is 2 storylines going on. One has Grady and Samantha and...
Not really Samantha, but...
Her name was said. What's his mom's name again?
Okay,
Christy?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Grady and Christy, and there's like this help a family thing that Hand Up is doing, and Grady wants to...
No, it's the church.
Oh, that the church is doing, and Grady wants to help out with that, but then he finds out that they were one of the families that got helped, and he's upset about that. But one of the, there's this guy who lives in a park, who they presume is homeless.
I mean, he is homeless, yes.
Yeah, that he is homeless. they like give a blanket to him and stuff, and they help him out. And that
Well,
is
not yet.
well, they're going to spoilers. And so in the first part of this, though, this is all the first part. What am I talking about? In the other storyline, Eugene and Whit are trying to figure out all the Leonard Meltzner stuff. They find out that Eugene was originally supposed to like go visit them at one point, and he was supposed to go with his like uncle, but then he wasn't allowed because his uncle didn't tell the Burnett's like where Eugene was going to be going, and like good for them for not letting Eugene go with him, because why would you do that? That would be terrible.
Because his uncle, his great uncle. This is his old man who wants to go to Africa and then explode.
Yeah, and then there's like a train crash and he dies and stuff, so it's a good thing Eugene wasn't on that train. We already did a what if about Eugene being on the train, didn't we?
No, we did it if his parents were never lost.
Oh, okay. But I'm thinking. So Eugene digs up stuff about that, and he finds out more things about the Burnett's looking after him, and what else happens? They're like trying to dig up more stuff and find things.
And then they have a epiphany about the facts, and they're like, let's go upstairs and check it, and that's where the episode ends.
It's funny because I was like at work when I was listening to this, and then the episode just stopped, and I was like, I thought it was a commercial break, and I was like, this is a really long commercial break, and then like 10 seconds passed, and I was like, oh, the episode's done.
It's funny because I was like, I can make it stop after this, but that's gonna be too much of a pain. I'll just like play it and then I'll stop it when the first episode ends, and I was hoping it wasn't one that was just gonna play through, and it was, and I fortunately just so happened like I paused the episode to write something down, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm on part 2 now, but I'm only 23 seconds into part 2. So it was like,
yeah, this episode timing. Just kind of
they did that around then.
I hate it when books do that, because I know a lot of books that do that, and they're just like one-shot books, and it kills me. A
most intriguing question and a most surprising answer literally has like 0.0 seconds that passes between it. Like, it is, if you
honestly, I kind of think that they overlap.
They almost do, like, basically.
I know they say Eugene and it like sounds different both times, but I always think back to like Winx episodes and how like the last 30 seconds would always be the first 30 seconds of the next episode.
Or like Fairy Tale,
but like it'd always be shot from different angles, and like all the line reads would be different, and everyone would be in different positions, and it would annoy me so much. And I could honestly go on a rant for hours and hours about all the things that bother me about Winx, and I have to you, but I also really like Winx.
It's like Fairy Tale, where the last 12 minutes of the episode are the first 12 minutes of the next episode.
Oh my gosh. You remember with Fairy Tale Zero? We got like 2 minutes of new content, and then the episode was over, and it was the most frustrating thing ever.
Oh, it was very annoying. No, there was definitely
all just flashbacks at the beginning, every single episode. That's the nice thing about Odyssey with the 45 to 49 episodes, is like all the previously on stuff
is separate from the episode.
Bonus tracks at the beginning, so it would not go into the runtime like Fairy Tale does.
Never thought about that before. Good point.
I didn't think about that until now either.
Or you do things like Netflix where you have no set episode length and you can go as long as you want, so you can put whatever in the episode, and it doesn't, you can just make it longer, which I guess Odyssey does anyways, because the album versions of the episodes can be as long as you want. So
I honestly, I kind of love and hate that about Netflix, because I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just watch one more episode and then I'm gonna go to bed, and I'm like half dead and feel nauseous because I'm so tired. And I just ended like a 35-minute episode, and I start the next one, and it's like an hour and 8 minutes long, and I'm like, I'm gonna die.
So you know, usually that's sporadic. It's most Netflix original shows that are live action, at least, are like between 50 minutes and an hour and 5 minutes per episode.
No, there's some a little shorter.
They keep it pretty consistent. So we start off the episode. Eugene's still looking for his daddy. I'm really glad that they put in like the line from Eugene to acknowledge the whole Zaire-Congo thing that has changed over time. It kind of helps explain it to the kids because they changed it. I'll actually read right now. There's a thing in the guide about it. Behind the scenes, when Eugene first talked about his missing parents in early episodes like Last in a Long Line, Album 10, he mentioned that they disappeared in Zaire. He mentioned this country in Prisoners of Fear, Album 45. However, in the late 1990s, the country of Zaire changed its name to the Congo. We had Eugene very briefly explain that fact in A Time for Action. In all episodes after this, we referred to the place as the Congo. More specifically, it's the Democratic Republic of the Congo, of course, or the DRC. So
I have nothing to say about that.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about this Grady storyline.
I figured you would. That was why I was like, listen to the episode, because
So
you always
I was
forget the
listening
B
to the
plots.
episode, and I was like, oh, Devin would have got me with this so bad if I hadn't listened to it.
That's how I knew that you listened to it when they asked you what happened in the episode. You start with Grady, and I was like,
You
yes,
still
really
didn't believe me, even though
No,
I told you
did.
I did?
I did, but that was like, that's how you know. That's the
You didn't
proof.
believe
I did
me,
believe
though.
you, though. I didn't doubt that you did.
I don't believe you, no.
No, I actually did believe you, Victoria.
That happens all the time. I tell Mom I did something, and then later on she checks and she's like, she comes up to me, she's like, hey, you actually did do that. I'm like, yeah, I told you I did. And no one believes me anymore. Everyone thinks I'm a liar.
In fairness,
and I mean, they're
in
not
fairness, you usually do
necessarily
explicitly
wrong. I
lie
do
to me
lie
that you
a lot.
listened to the episode beforehand.
What?
In fairness, you usually do explicitly lie to me that you listened to the episode beforehand.
No, I don't.
You have done that before. I'm like, did you listen to the episode? And you're like, yes. And then we're talking about it, and I was like, hey, Victoria, what's the B plot of this episode? And you're like,
I don't remember. I don't remember lying about that. I usually don't like lying. Unless it
you
comes
just creatively
to...
avoid it.
I try and Shax it. / Felix it. That's how I try to approach everything. Where I'm not lying.
It's not a good way to approach everything.
No, it's not, but that's how my brain works.
So, like you said, the train crash, yeah, and I mentioned this recently when we were talking about Hiram. It's sad and scary to think about like how very, very close Eugene came to dying in that train crash. And it is sad as well, obviously, that Michael did indeed die, because he actually died, but, you know, we don't care about him as much because we don't know him.
I like how Eugene's like, oh, I better tell the Burnett's. He's like, hey, he died in the train crash. I know you guys always told me about how he died randomly. Now we know how he died. It was in the train crash. And they're like, oh, okay, thanks for letting us know.
We feel much more vindicated now in the decision that we made not to let you go.
Eugene, did you hear? It's a good thing we didn't let you go to that one science fair. The school blew up.
Yeah. They have
parents.
like life is strange powers, and they just keep on like hurting him away from death incidents. Eugene's entire life story is just like one long Final Destination film.
Honestly, you're not wrong.
But yeah,
I know, I'm an expert. I've seen all of one Final Destination film.
I mean, I haven't seen any of them.
It's
Granted,
ridiculous.
You
Honestly, there's some of the silliest. It's so silly.
You did also watch the Netflix Death Note movie, which, from what I've seen, was
I
also...
did not watch the Netflix Death Note movie.
You didn't?
No,
oh, you just watched a billion
like 5
reviews.
billion YouTube videos.
Okay, because I was going to say, that's...
people talking
From what I understand, that was basically another Final Destination film.
I watched a clip.
The scene with the ladder?
The scene with the ladder.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this is literally Final
Destination-y thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Next to watching an actual Final Destination movie. I need to watch more than just the first one, because apparently they just get more and more ridiculous as they go on.
Anyways, so yeah, the train thing always blows my mind to think like, wow, that almost happened. Like, just think though, on the flip side, if Dalton hadn't tried to lure Eugene in as leverage, Eugene would have still had a single living close relative while growing up. Like, then Michael wouldn't have died, and he would have had, like, this living blood family member close to him, like, growing up the whole time. on the flip side.
You would have ended up really different.
And this whole thing is even darker, like when we know that Gobir was the one who set it up and everything, because we already know
They
him
talk
as a
about
patron.
death just like really casually in this episode.
Well, it happened a long time
No
ago,
one seems
Victoria.
like alarmed or any. Eugene's like a little surprised that he almost was put in a life or death situation, but he's never like
I mean,
really upset about it.
Victoria,
And
it
I'm
wasn't
like,
a life or
boy,
death
I would
situation.
be in tears if I were you.
It was not a life or death situation. It was a death situation.
Yeah,
There's
but
no.
he like never reacts.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, I would have died.
It's
but
like
instead it was just my great uncle. Anyway, I'm gonna go tell my foster parents.
it's like the secret of the writer's ruse when the old lady's like, "Oh, my mother was a spy who found me as an orphan baby in a hotel room because my mother was also a spy and was murdered." Interesting.
Thank you for telling me.
What an
Would you like a cookie?
Wasn't that a fun adventure, kids? I'm gonna go have a nihilistic existential crisis now.
Oh, you could tell she was an actor. Emily, you really are my arch rival. You're so smart, Emily. That Emily's quick.
Grady in this episode, obviously most of the focus
a
of this
good
episode is
boy.
like the Leonard stuff, because it's all like, ooh, big plot, Eugene stuff, this is the finale, and
Grady
this is...
had such good character development.
Grady's part in this episode cuts me to the core every time, because the way he reacts when he finds out that his own family is one of the recipients of the project, like it just instantly tears away his innocence of the layers of wealth disparity, and he just instantly is piled with this like hurt and condescension and betrayal that he feels, especially given the fact that he himself gave of his own stuff to help those less fortunate than himself. And then he finds out that these people, like, you know, pitied him, basically, is the way that he sees it, enough to give him this stuff, which he suddenly realizes, like, oh, these people see me as poor, and I didn't know that until now.
Yeah, especially since he's trying to give away like literally everything.
Yeah.
Which is very noble of him. I mean, none of the stuff was his. Like some of it was, not much of it though.
Yeah. But I mean, still, like, a lot.
I admire him though for.
Yeah, he's like radically
He's
self-sacrificial, and it's really inspirational. He's like, the guy in the park can take my bed. I'll sleep on the couch. He doesn't have that much. Like, how often we forget that our giving in life is not called to be out of our excess, but of faith. Like, not giving from the extra
And
we have,
Grady's
but
not even a Christian
giving
yet.
what we don't have. Yeah, I know.
I was thinking, and I was just like, man, Grady's so awesome for a new Christian. And then I stopped, and I was like, wait, he doesn't become a Christian for like 4 more albums, or like three more albums.
Okay, so the main issue that I take with this episode,
oh boy,
is why on earth would someone who works for the U.S. Department of State have a passenger list for a 20-year-old local passenger train in South Central Africa?
Because this is your favorite saga in the show,
Shut up.
arguably, so why are you complaining about this?
It's not my favorite, it's my most
I know it's
favorite
not your
relative
favorite,
to other
but-
people's appreciation for other sagas. Like, unless it was released as part of the press release regarding the crash and fatalities, but if that was the case, then surely Whit's friend would have led with the crash thing. Like, oh, there was a train crash, because of that we have a file on this. Here, let me pull it up for you. Beyond that, once they find this file, it's described as, quote, rather thick, enough so that they split the contents between Whit and Eugene to search through, because there's so much in there. What could those contents be? Why would the U.S. Department of State need so much info on it? Were they investigating the cause of the crash? Dossiers on passengers, staff, engineers, architects? It's so far beyond their conceivable jurisdiction. I can't imagine a reason why this file would exist unless the U.S. government suspected they had some tangential culpability there. The only thing I can imagine that makes any amount of sense, and it is interesting to think about, the only thing I can imagine to that end about, like, oh, the government was looking into something related because they were worried about their own culpability, is that the Kindu was very close to Dalton's operation and the Wolofs. Probably they didn't know what he was doing or where he was, but we do know Jason was able to expedite a court order because the government was so eager to catch him. The idea that they knew that long ago where his dig site was seems unlikely to me, but I think it's the most reasonable and intriguing explanation that back then the government, they couldn't get any proof on Dalton, but they knew where he was, and they couldn't get proof of what he was doing, but they're like, we're going to keep tabs on him. And so we're stocking out information around where he's located. And when suddenly a train crashes very close to there and a whole bunch of people die, including like this American who they may have even realized had a connection to another famous archaeologist, they suspected foul play, and that's why they had a file on it. That's my best guess. What do you think?
I mean, honestly, there's so many things in like this saga that just like I get lost about, like when it comes to who's sending letters to who and why and what agencies. There's like too many agency names. There's too many.
America, why do you have so many agencies?
Why do you have so many? And Wit's connected to everything. Honestly, I was like kind of during the scenes with that lady because she was annoying me.
I forgot to mention that there's actually...
She was, and like Eugene's trying to make jokes with her, and I'm like, what is this attempt at comedy? It hurts me.
That I realized that there is a connection for the episodes in this review, because the video documentary for the first episode for Mean Streaks have half of the video
about bullying.
The other half of the video.
We can consider bombing a plane or a train bullying.
Half of the video, the other half that wasn't bullying, was Diane and Golia making the green gook with Bob and some kids. And then this is one of the very few episodes in which she appears as an actress under her own, and also under her own real life name.
Was she that lady?
Yeah, she's Diane. That's her name. She plays herself essentially in this episode, and
who is she at Focus?
She works not in the AIOO department, but she's like a head of like, I don't know, marketing or something like that. She's been in a couple episodes.
I just didn't think she was funny. They were like trying to really push the comedy, and Eugene's like, you know why?
The
like,
line that is supposed to be like the awkward comedy line is a little awkward past the comedy line.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It
but
was, no.
I mean, I like, she isn't an actress, she's someone who just works at Focus.
No, I mean, she did like fine on the acting.
Wit's response to her line like sounds very genuine and comedic enough for Wit. I think.
I think it was honestly Will's delivery that was a little was kind of like the awkward one that stuck out for me.
It was Eugene trying to be cool.
I know it's supposed to be awkward. It's like Lawrence trying to be cool. It's
like Decker.
Yeah, Decker
or like any
is
video.
Unpopular opinion time. Decker is just Eugene Meltzner. Why would you say something so controversial?
That is
so
an
brave?
Unpopular opinion. So Whit sees a picture of Leonard, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's true what I've heard people say. Like you do look exactly like him." I was like, "What does Whit mean when he says that he heard people say that Eugene looked exactly like his father? Who has Whit met who knows / has seen both Leonard and Eugene? The only person..."
Maybe he was like trying to make Eugene feel good.
My first guess.
He's like, you look like your father, just like I've heard so many people tell me. What people, Mr. Whitaker? Have you been hiding people. Relatives behind my back? People.
Yeah, no, my first thought was like...
I'm Whit. I know everyone.
Yeah, I was like, Ralph Reams, and he did make that very comment in the episode, like, you're the spitting image of your father. But that's hardly people. That's one person. Maybe he meant Eugene himself, and he was counting Eugene in the people. I think it's very doubtful that the Burnett's ever met Leonard. Katrina might have made a comment from having seen pictures of Leonard that Eugene had. But that's about all I could guess. And Whit probably actually has mutual acquaintances with Leonard in the archaeology world, but they probably wouldn't know Eugene, so that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Eugene makes a sweet callback to his awful mustache in Darkness Before Dawn in that moment as well.
And it's like a self-pitying callback.
That's the only way you can call back that mustache, Victoria.
Man, you know what I imagine it looked like? I imagine it looked like a worse version of Kib's mustache in the alternative lifestyle videos.
Yeah.
So like whenever Steve tries to grow a mustache.
Or Barb John's mustache in the last On the Spot.
Oh yeah, Barb John. John. I'm John Reisinger, and
welcome to On the Spot.
This is On the Spot.
Hey, this is the Father's Day episode, right?
And in that moment, John knew that he messed up.
And then the post show too. They did it again.
Actually, I was.
How?
No, it's funny because I watched the post show when I was on break at the library, and then I told Nathan about what happened in the first show with Josh, and then when that part came up in the post show, I showed it to him. But I was watching it for the first time at the same time as him, and we were both mortified.
It was jokes. It was the best episode they've ever made, but boy howdy, poor Josh Flanagan. What a poor man.
Josh won at the end.
So, Eugene keeps talking about the photo and stuff, and he explains who Dalton is to Whit in a way that suggests...
Okay, I have things to say about this.
He explains who Dalton is to Whit in a way that suggests that he doesn't know that Dalton held his parents in captivity for 20 years, when he very much does. He was like, oh, that's Dalton Kern. He was my father's mentor, and he's quite prominent in the archaeology world.
Wait, when did he know? How does he know that Dalton... Oh, wait, no, he knows that from the Ashantis.
Yeah, they were like, Dalton Kern led the Wolofs, and he held your parents captive. We're taking you to Dalton.
Did Eugene know who Dalton was before Prisoners of Fear?
Yeah.
Why didn't he ever go to Dalton and talk to him?
I don't know, because he didn't know Dalton was in Africa.
Yeah, but that
he was just someone that his parents knew.
No, but that doesn't make any sense to me. Because he, like, went to such lengths in earlier episodes to just, like, talk to people who knew his parents so he could find out more about them and stuff.
Wait, are you talking pre-Prisoners of Fear?
Yes. And also during
he?
Prisoners of Fear.
Since
like,
when?
Literally... Well, it feels like he would have, like, with how he acted in Last in a Long Line and stuff. Like, he wanted to know literally anything about his parents.
He always struck me as very resigned about the fact, though. He was so matter-of-fact about it all.
No, he was, like, seeking out people who had, like, information about his parents all the time. You still...
After
and, like,
Prisoners of Fear.
No, but, like, especially now, you would think that he would go and try and find Dalton to, like, literally find out anything that might be useful, even if Dalton... Well, I guess he knows that Dalton kidnapped his parents now. But, like, you would think that he would have tried to meet Dalton or talk to him at some point before Prisoners of Fear.
That is a good...
Or at least I do.
I don't know about that, but that
like,
is at least an interesting point.
Could you imagine that, though? Eugene goes to Dalton, and Dalton's like, Leonard, you're younger and you're alive.
Yeah, it's a good point, because Dalton does still believe that Eugene is dead at this point.
Yeah, and then he'd find out Eugene's alive, and he's like, I have to adopt you, and he'd knock Eugene out.
It also does sound,
what if Eugene went to go see Dalton, and it was like a bring your son to work day, and he saw Everett, and then Dalton's like,
and it's like the Spider-Man pointing meme.
Yeah.
No, not the Italian Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. Where he's looking at himself.
Yes.
Yeah. Put it here.
Yeah, I already did, Victoria.
You don't know that?
No, I mean, yeah, it would be interesting. I get the feeling that Dalton is not an easy person to track down based on how thirsty the government is to get him.
Whit was easily able to track him down in the top floor, so don't even give me that.
Yeah, but there's a difference between what Whit can easily do and what Eugene can easily do.
Whit and Eugene are working together.
Well, they are now.
Eugene probably could have figured out something. But then again, he was also talking to Mr. Melts Noir, so
yeah, I
maybe
don't
not.
just know before, because Eugene has always struck me as very not like, man, I'm always just yearning to find information about my parents that I can't. He's always just struck me
Okay,
as super
Devin,
resigned
you
to
imagine
it.
this. You are Dalton Kern.
Dalton Cairn.
Questionably, possibly good father, but horrible person. Garbage boy.
Okay.
That is who you
Garbage
are.
Boy Stink Man. I'm there.
Yeah, you are Garbage Boy Stink Man, but also slightly good father. And
You just have to
you would
kidnap children
probably
to do it.
be a good metal husband. Anyway, all the Monster Factory references. So what happens is you get an email sent to you, and it's from someone asking about Leonard Meltzner. And they say their name is Eugene Meltzner, and they give you some information about both Leonard and Eugene to prove their identity. What do you do?
Hitman.
Yeah. That is the right answer.
Maybe. No, that doesn't make sense. Because he
What were you
didn't know
gonna
that
say?
Eugene was alive. I was like, what if he did send a hitman after Eugene, and then there was some comical behind-the-scenes thing that we never saw, where he kept on trying to kill Eugene, and then like comical slapstick happened that prevented him from
It's like the King and I, like the cartoon version.
Yes, exactly like that.
Yeah.
Except that, that doesn't make sense in canon, but I can dream. I can dream of a
Or
great
maybe
world.
they went after Eugene like during the mustache, love is in the air, kind of pre-love is in the air phase. And they're like, oh no, that wouldn't be him. And then they left. They're like, that's... Someone saw him who worked for Dalton, didn't realize he was Eugene. He was like, oh, it's Leonard. And they started going after him. Then they saw his face and they were like, Leonard's mustache was always far better. He would never grow anything as pitiful as that. And then they left.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think that Eugene would have tried to contact Dalton or something like that at some point. Or at least like thought about it or mentioned it, or maybe not, since they hadn't written the character of Dalton yet.
Shh.
Yeah, I went there.
No. I don't know. I don't feel like it's as probable as you do that would have happened, but there's a definite possibility, and that is a good point that you raised that I hadn't thought about before.
Thank you. I was gonna say, can you imagine how crazy it would be, though, if, like, in Last in the Long Line, they mentioned Dalton Kern or something like that, with the knowledge that he would be evil, and they would bring it back so many albums later and stuff. I was like, why would they wait that long to do something like that? And I was thinking, that's literally what they did with Whit's entire character, and how they dispersed his backstory, and that is what they're doing with all the different carnivals that they're bringing back in Odyssey now, all from that time period, all coming back now post-hiatus, all being relevant.
And album 18 in the Jesus Cloth, what talks about is archaeologist friend Alfred Brownlee, who sent him the Jesus Cloth, and then he later ended up being the villain in The Search for Wit.
Yep. There's all the archaeologists in this show are evil.
It's true, except for Wit. Or is he? Also Leonard.
He can be a jerk at times.
There is one archaeologist in the show that we know is good and pure of heart, and that is Thelma Meltzner.
Thelma. Why do I say Velma? Thelma.
I'm glad we're on the same page there.
Yes.
Apart from what her name is.
Yes. It's Velma from Scooby-Doo. There's a Egyptian Scooby-Doo movie. She's arguably an archaeologist.
No, I was going to say, that is technically in Africa, if that's what you're getting at.
Oh, that's true.
So, Wit is like, oh great, I'm so glad that we got that important information from my friend on the inside at the Department of State. Now I'll just call up my friend at this tiny newspaper in the Congo. And I'm really glad personally that Eugene at this point in his life still decides to call out Wit on the fact that he has a friend at this very tiny local newspaper in Kindu in the DRC. I
it'd probably be easy to just like get tired of these jokes about Jason and Whit knowing everyone, but I never get tired of them.
He's like Kim Possible is
Yeah.
basically what he is.
He is pretty much like, oh yeah, I did you that favor one time. You know what's the best moment in Kim Possible when it comes to the favors?
What?
Is when Kim needs
When
to
she
get
doesn't
somewhere
have
and she
anyone?
can't, and she doesn't have someone, and then Jim and Tim get like a helicopter ride, and they're like, oh yeah, we called in that favor because we helped this pilot's daughter with her homework.
Yeah.
And she's like, what is up with you two?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's Dash from The Incredibles. I
like-
know that now.
I like that one post that's like, we joke about that in like spy movies and stuff like that, but that's what it would be like for people who use the internet, and it's like, oh, we have to hide out in Slovenia, and they're like, don't worry, I have like this one mutual who posts about cats all the time in there. We can stay with her. Like, yeah, on the topic of the Congo newspaper thing, I can't believe that album 46 is old enough now that like they would use fax machines by choice. It's one of those delightfully antiquated plot because album 46 is definitely in the newer section of this show, but like it's so antiquated.
We still have a fax machine here. We got a fax last week.
From whom?
I think it might have been Grandma and Grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
Still, we got a fax.
Like, and it's funny because the whole fax thing is like an important plot point to the episode. Like the phone numbers on this fax versus the original fax because we got a double fax, and it is antiquated the vector for it, but the concept I think still comes across clearly because it would translate very well to today in terms of like an email that had been forwarded multiple times, and you'd have like the multiple layers of forwarding addresses that the email went through.
It's like
Exactly. Although a different email address would be a lot more likely to be spotted quicker than a different phone number, probably. And I'll say this, at least Leonard had an excuse for using a fax machine because he'd been in the jungle for 20 years. However, the fact that Pete's Gas and Chow has a fax machine for customers to use is bizarre and has no excuse.
Do you think Leonard, like, he got out of the jungle after the 20 years, and he was like, oh, I have to adjust, British Kravitz, I have to adjust to, this
Griffin,
is my
is that you?
Griffin McElroy British accent impersonation. I have to adjust to being out of Africa. I gotta know what's going on. And he like looks at the newspaper and he goes into a library. He's like, what? Abraham Lincoln is dead. What is this? I'm listening to the Crystal Kingdom now.
I see.
Yeah, and every single moment Kravitz is talking, I'm like, please kill me. His accent is so bad.
And Griffin didn't even realize at first that he dropped it. He was like, oh, wait, wasn't he Cockney and now he's just American? When did that happen?
No, it's because on the date at the Chug and Squeeze, he's like,
oh yeah, he's like,
I
I'm not doing
my
this.
accent. Can I stop, Taco? And Taco's like, yeah, go for it, my man. He's like, oh, thank you.
It's basically like the joke about Jenkins' voice and the bow tie, except it was real.
Except for it's canon.
So there was one other thing from the guide about this episode that was about part one, which is an excellent point that I've brought up before. Goof alert. In A Time for Action, Eugene claims that his mother's maiden name is Mushnick, even though it was established in Last in a Long Line, album 10, that her last name was Kronholm and his grandmother's maiden name was Mushnick. Apparently, chasing around after his father made Eugene forgetful, or perhaps Whit's program to restore Eugene's memory in earlier episodes didn't work quite as well as Whit hoped.
Wait, it says that?
Yes. Or kids, the third option, which is that I once asked Phil Lawler about this, which one is true? And his answer was incest. No joke. I was like, is Mushnick his mother's maiden name? Or is it his paternal grandmother's maiden name?
And he was like, yes.
And he said both. He said both. Eugene is related to the Mushniks on his mother's and father's side of his family. And I was like,
It's a small world.
well, huh. That's an interesting, like, straight from the horse's mouth word of God that you're dropping on me right now. Because there's actually, they don't mention it here, there's actually 4 times that we talk about the relationship between Eugene and the Mushnik name. 2 of them, it's implied that it's on his father's side, and 2 of them, it's implied that it's on his mother's side. That's why I was confused. And yeah, Phil was like, both. And I was like, okay. And Eugene criticizes, you know, like, the far Mushnik side of his family for being, like, podunk and whatnot. But hey.
Do you think that's why...
look who's in a glass house
like,
now.
Bernard's family didn't want Eugene at the family get-together? He's like, no, you're the inbred side. Go away.
It's like Riverdale. Oh, man.
Wait, what Riverdale? What? No, don't tell me. Don't tell me.
You don't want to know.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. I don't watch that. I don't want to know about that show. I don't need to. I don't watch it. I don't want to know.
So yeah, we don't rate the episode because it's part 1, so I guess that's all we have to talk about.
Dev, there are some things that a creator says about something, and lots of the fandom, and myself included, are like,
it as uncanny.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
Like J.K. Rowling and George Lucas?
Right. Like, lots of things with J.K. Rowling, even more things with George Lucas, some things with what Nomura says about Kingdom Hearts. Like, in the first game, that voice that tells Sora, like, how to use a Keyblade, later on, he's like, oh, like, after the game was made, everyone was like, who was that voice? And he was like, oh yeah, that was Mickey. And it's like, how was Mickey in Sora's heart? Telling him what to do. How did he know his name?
Because Mickey is in all of our hearts, Victoria. That's how Disney works.
No, because everyone, like, after Birth by Sleep, everyone was like, oh, it's Ventus. That makes so much sense. And, like, that everything would make sense. But and Nomura was like, nah, man, that's Mickey. And it's like, that does not make any sense at all. It only makes sense if it's Ven.
Inside Ventus's heart is Mickey. You just keep layers and layers down.
Well, they are friends.
Turtles upon turtles.
I guess so. But yeah, things like this with Phil.
Remember, Victoria.
Let's just say Eugene is being forgetful and still has some memory.
Remember, Victoria, you've got a friend in me.
Next time we're going to be doing top 10. Wait, or is it the anniversary episode?
Nope, that's not for another, like, 3 episodes.
It's our anniversary coming up soon for the Oddcast. Send us money.
5 years. Forgot what yours was for a second there.
Send us how many years? 5? 5. That means all of our viewers have to send us to Hawaii.
I mean, I'm coming home so we can go to Hawaii.
Okay, I guess. I didn't expect this, but okay.
It's paid for by you.
Paid for by you.
Patreon
right
link in the description.
Look at your bank account as the numbers slowly drop.
It's a Christmas miracle.
For us, not for you. Anyway, we're going to be doing top 10 romances in Odyssey. What does this mean? You'll have to watch and find out. We don't know, and you don't know either.
We think we know, but we're purposefully not calling it top 10 ships because
in case we change something.
Well, because it's not just like our top favorite ships. It's not just like, oh, I like this couple. And we want to do like, you know, what is like, interesting and well written.
It's also romantic ships.
Complex and deep. Well, that's why we said top 10 romances.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what is happening next time. Until then, thank you for joining us on our side of YouTube. I've been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And yeah.
And you've been watching the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.
Dalton Cairn.
I don't even remember where that joke came from.
I said it wrong, and then we just said it for 10
I figured
minutes straight.
that what it was. I was like, one of us.
And then I think I started talking in Maury's voice and saying it, and it was just a mess.
Yeah, this is coming back to me now. This all tracks. Yeah. Okay. Goodbye.
Our trash podcast.